Leap of Fate podcast fans. Welcome to this week's episode with yours truly. You know my name, Randy Silver. As a friendly reminder, the Leap of Fate is around overcoming adversity and obstacles in your daily life. Whatever you're dealing with, we're here at the Leap of Fate to tell you that you can do it, and we want to inspire you to make sure that you can do it. There's nobody better than Fitz Koehler of fitness.com who can help you with that this week. Let me tell you a little about her and why she's on the podcast. Fitz is one of the most prominent and compelling fitness experts and race announcers in America. I'm about to blow your mind with what she does. As the voice of the LA Marathon, the Philadelphia Marathon, the Big Sur Marathon, Buffalo Marathon, DC Wonder Woman and Batman Run series, which sounds super fun, and more, she brings structure, energy, and joy to the sport. She's also passionate about guiding others to live better and longer through her company, Fitz. Fitz has appeared on national media outlets and has worked as a speaker, keynote speaker, spokesperson for corporations like Disney, Tropicana, Oakley, and Office Depot. She has also inspired millions of kids to get active through her successful school running walking program, The Morning Mile. Now, all that is really, really good. I love that. But here's where the inspiration can come through, if that wasn't enough. In 2019, Fitz was diagnosed with breast cancer, and she published a memoir, My Noisy Cancer Comeback, Running at the Mouth While Running for My Life, which came out in October, and we'll definitely touch on it. She has overcome cancer. She's with us today, which is awesome. So Fitz, in her personal life, enjoys water sports, strength training, animals, hugs, sarcasm, and travel. So with that being said, we will go ahead and welcome Fitz in to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Randy. I've been looking forward to chatting with you all day.
I can't wait. So I would say let's just jump into it. I think the first place I want to start is because the big part will be the cancer part. How do you become the voice of a marathon? That is such a unique job. That's so cool. I would love to hear about it.
So I've spent my entire career, which is decades long, being bossy and noisy. And I'm also a sport performance expert. So I've been training athletes from Abby Wambach when she played soccer at the University of Florida and their championship, and soccer and the tennis, fighters to youth athletes. And so I was teaching clinics for Run Disney, which is the endurance wing of the Walt Disney World and formerly Disneyland. And so while I was teaching those clinics, I made friends with their race announcer, and he just loved my clinics. And he was always there at the expo to introduce me as a speaker. And he kept saying, "Gosh, you're so great at speaking. You're such a dynamic presenter and you engage everybody. You're so fun, blah, blah, blah." And eventually he said, "Hey, you know what? I need a co-announcer for the O.C. Marathon, Orange County, in a few months." He said, "Are you interested?" And I said, "Well, I've never, but I'd love to give it a shot. And it's certainly within my wheelhouse. You know, my career has been built on mass media, mass impact. So I don't work in a gym. I haven't worked in a gym in 25 years, I think. Everything I do is on a stage, corralling, coercing, congratulating, hundreds or thousands of people. And so putting me on a stage to host runners, to engage, inform, entertain was not very far from what I was already doing. I like the way he did it. And he showed me the ropes, because running certainly does have its very special nuances. And I was a runner, I am a runner. So that definitely helped. And so I announced the OC Marathon, and that race director was very sweet to hire me and give me a chance. And within an hour of yelling go at the marathon, he asked me if I would come back the next year. And I agreed. And shortly after, within a handful more other announcing opportunities. So I now have a jam-packed schedule on a normal year, and I love what I do.
That's awesome. So let me ask you this question. Have you run a marathon before?
I have run plenty of half marathons, but as of yet, I have yet to cross the finish line of a half marathon and thought, gee, I'd like to do that again. So I've yet to do a full marathon. I don't know if I ever will. I may. But right now I'm a very happy half marathoner.
So I'm the same way. I've actually never run a full marathon. I've run a half marathon a couple times. I don't think I ever want to run a marathon. It's just too much for me. I like the 13 miles. I'm good there. I tore my ACL in college playing college lacrosse. And like after like 10 miles, my knee just hurts. I can't do it. Of course, mine never matter. I don't want to do an extra 16 miles.
So smart of you to say that. It's all, I think it's very much a choice. And my sport was kickboxing. I actually competed for 10 years, and man, the benefits far outweighed the negatives, but it left me with a hip and knee issue that makes me cranky by mile 10. You know, that knee starts screaming, and I have a knee brace that squeaks and hits my. Oh, yeah, I'm with you. So far, I'm a happy half marathoner. Perhaps one day I'll do a full, but right now it's not on the agenda.
So I love that. And then to take it back to what you talked about, working with athletes, two questions off of that. What is it like working with an Abby Wambach or someone who's at just, a US Olympian, high athlete, and how can you help them take their level to the next level? And two, how did you get into that? Did you go to school for sports performance and then you met one athlete who introduced you another, kind of like how you just talked about marathon, one announcing job gets you to another?
Yeah, so my master's degree is exercise and sports sciences, and I had been teaching fitness since I was 14. So I
Oh, wow.
started working at a women's gym classes, and then I got into personal training, and I was an athlete and just took an interest in how athletes perform because it's very different. You know, a swimmer's workout doesn't necessarily look like a soccer player's workout or a
Hmm.
boxer workout. You know, our body performs differently and it has different requirements for each sport. And so I just fell in love. I'm in love with the human body. I'm in love with helping people do better and be better. And so I am a Gator. Both my bachelor's and my master's came from UF. I still live in Gainesville. Yeah. Jump, go Gators. And I actually kickboxing at the time still and started working with Becky Burley, who was the Gator coach at the time. And so she and the women's tennis coach hired me to be a cross training coach virtually for their athletes. They would come to me and we'd do kickboxing. And it's interesting how relevant kickboxing is to soccer. And maybe that's not such a shock, but it's probably very surprising how relevant kickboxing is to tennis players too. There were so many times where I'd be coaching the tennis players to turn their hip over, rotate, rotate, rotate. Your power base comes from the rotation in your hip.
I
And
see it.
Andy Brandy was going, yes, ladies, don't I say that all the time? And so there's a bunch of crossover. And so, yeah, their coaches hired me. Abby Wambach happened to be one of my athletes. And I love an elite athlete. You know, it's fun to see what they can do, how hard they push themselves. And obviously, it's hard. It's amazing to see them perform at such a high level. And being here at the
Yep.
University of Florida, most of our athletes perform at a very high level. However, they also didn't take themselves too seriously, where the average Joe or Jane would come in and be hesitant or nervous about punching or kicking and am I doing it right? Elite athletes don't have those concerns. They just go for it.
Hmm.
And they were very powerful. They were very talented. I mean, once you have that fine motor skill control, you can apply it in many ways. But man, those soccer players, they would come in, they were such hooligans. They were loud, they were raucous, show up clothes backwards, or they're on the outside of their clothes. They were just a lot of fun. And I really appreciated that they could perform at such a high level and still be absurd while they were training and laugh a lot. And both of those teams won the national championship the year I trained them. So I'm not taking ownership of their titles, but there's one unifying factor between both.
So the elite athletes, obviously their mindset is just on a different level than everyone and they push themselves. How did you use that type of mindset as we transition back to you when unfortunately you found out you had cancer and it's like, okay, I can tackle this and I can overcome this?
Yeah, I'm very much in control of me in any and every scenario. So whether it's fitness or athletics or business, I have full faith in me. And I think the confidence I gained from being a kickboxer really has been priceless. So I was terrified at first. Upon my diagnosis, I definitely had a bit of time where I thought I was definitely dying, mostly because I made the perfect tragic tale. I was the fitness professional who did almost everything right and helped the others. And I had this great family and this incredible career. And I thought, oh God, I'm definitely dying because that makes the perfect tragedy. And so once I got past that, I operated on discipline. I was obliterated by cancer, every ounce of me. And it's hard to look at me now and comprehend what I went through. But not only was I violently sick, I felt like I had a tequila hangover for 5 months solid. I was
Oh, wow.
stopped exploding. My head hurt. Everything was a mess. And then I had 10 more months of chemo after that. But I just use a lot of determination and, again, that stubbornness. So when things first hit the fan and I had to reach out to my doctor because I wasn't getting better, he said, "Oh, come on in, let's get you, come in and see me and we'll see what we can do." And I told him, I said, "Dr. Gordon, I have to get on a plane Thursday." He goes, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm announcing the Los Angeles Marathon." He said, "Well, we have to get you on your feet." And so where many other doctors would have said, "Oh, well, stay home, call in sick." And if I would have called in sick for a year and a half, nobody would have blamed me, right? But then
Mm-hmm.
my doctor's also an athlete and he understands marathon runner. And so instead of saying stay home, he said, "We have to get you on your feet." And so I started going to get IV fluids every single weekday for 5 months. Even when I was out of town, I would fly to California, I would fly to New York, wherever. And my race directors would arrange for me to get IV fluids. But yeah, can't wasn't an option. Won't wasn't an option. And I just made these choices. And thankfully, I was able to make it happen. And no matter, even if I slept on the bathroom floor the night before a race because I was sick, and you know how we do that when you're sick, you sleep on the bathroom floor. I don't know why. I think it's
Yeah. Fetal position next to the toilet.
yes, it's exactly right. But I would wake up at 4 a.m. or whenever my alarm clock got off or went off, and I'd put on my clothes and I'd go out to the start line. And this is the magic of picking a profession you are so passionate about, because I would get on those stages and then it was though someone flipped my on switch and all of my aches and pains, or at least most of them, kind of faded away. And I got to be full force Fitz Koehler again. And, the opportunity to turn my attention to somebody else truly went a long way. And it felt good to feel good.
You
Okay.
know who that actually reminds me of, you talking about how you were just going through chemo and doing it, is Ron Rivera. Obviously, if you guys follow the news NFL, he was going through chemo this whole season and he was out there coaching and he was at the pedigree of his sport. You're at the pedigree of your sport. So when you see someone like that doing what you're doing, I think it's very, very powerful. And that makes you an inspiration and it makes you a role model for others. But let's take it back to when you found out you had cancer. I mean, you said you're very healthy, you're out there, you're the prototypical, like, I'm that person. What was that moment like? And how did you, your family react to that?
So it was devastating, but I can tell you that I never had the why me moment. I never questioned, well, gee, I'm so healthy. Why does this happen? I fully understand that cancer happens to lots of healthy people. It can happen to
Hmm.
everyone. In fact, the rumor is that we all have cells go rogue every single day, and it's just our immune system turning them off. So I never questioned why. I just I took control where I could. So I got the best medical team. I have friends who are in medicine. And I said, who do I go to? And they guided me towards what we consider the A team here in Gainesville. So I took control in that way. And then, they made their recommendations for treatment and I took control of that. Was I going to accept their recommendations? Was I going to say no? I chose full force, the path of least regrets. Throw the book at me today so I never have to see this thing again. Kill it, get it good and gone. So those factors, those were the actions I took. I also made decisions right away that were completely beneficial to my mental health. I chose that I wasn't giving up my passions. Again, I wasn't giving up my career, and I travel almost every weekend of the year. I just decided, no way, I wasn't giving up my career or time with my kids, period, end of the story. And that went really far for me. So I wasn't giving up my passions. And then I chose perspective. And that really, I think, is not
That's
only
key.
golden nugget, that's the golden boulder here is I wasn't a kid with cancer, which would be way worse. It wasn't my kid with cancer, which would be the worst. And it wasn't, I didn't get hit by a bus and murdered that day. There's always someone who has it worse. And so perspective, no matter how bad things got, yes, I cried all the time. Yes, I was stressed. But I also chose not to have the pity party. I just kept my eye on the prize, light at the end of the tunnel. They've promised me a cure, so I just have to keep going. And even with a golden attitude, I did hit despair. It's hard, but it would have been so much worse if I were someone who really wanted a pity party or I told my people, I said, listen, I have cancer, but I will not accept your pity. I'm going to be fine. I'm going to show up at work. I'm going to be there for my kids. You can root for me. You can cheer for me, but I will accept no pity. And I chose to be positive, and that really went a long way. I don't think being negative helps anyone.
And I agree with that because your mindset is exactly what I accompany for Leap of Faith. And I try to do is yes, there's gonna be tough situations. Yes, it's gonna be so hard. Yes, there's gonna be down and you're down and then down. But if you see that light at the end of the tunnel and you really push yourself to the limits and you keep that positive mindset, you'll be able to overachieve. So if all my guests I've had over the course of the past year, I think you telling this message epitomized that story more than anything with how much you were able to achieve while going through such a dark time in your life.
Yeah, it's interesting. So my chemo, we broke it down into 6 rounds of what we call the mean chemo, which is what they say is the most toxic combination of chemo drugs they give anyone. And then there were 10 months of this drug I called Godzilla. But when I was nearing the end of
They
the
both
mean
sound
chemo,
really bad.
yeah. So anyway, it's full of ridiculousness. Every issue I had all came with silly nicknames. But my doctor, he said, Fitz, you've done so great. And I'm sitting in his office waiting for my 6th round of chemo, and I'm gray and I'm bald and I'm shaking from stress because I'm going back in to have more chemo that day. And he said, you've done great. I said, no, I haven't done great. He said, you have. I said, why do you keep saying that? Every morsel of my body has been destroyed. He said, Fitz, I'm not saying you didn't suffer. Having said that, if you weren't so healthy and fit and so positive coming into this, you wouldn't have just been hospitalized overnight, which I was. I had to go in and have transfusions one night. He said, you would have been hospitalized for a month. You would have had a feeding tube. People don't make it out of this treatment, unscathed. He said, and you traveled the country having more adventure in your life than most healthy people have. He said, so yes, you suffered, but you also blew the doors off on this type of treatment because you chose to.
And I love that. And I think that's a good segue because you popped up your book, the My Noisy Cancer Comeback, Running at the Mouth While Running from My Life. Can you talk about the book and, just writing that? And, I'm sure while you were writing that, it brought back so many emotions that were already super raw because it was within the past year of you having cancer.
Yeah, so it was some of the parts were hard to write, but I'm a writer. And I just felt like I had something to say. I felt like I chose the stories that were entertaining or impactful. So there's the impactful stuff where I'm a fitness professional. I help people do better and be better. That's who and what I am. And so those parts were especially nice for me to write. And then many of the memories, were kind of funny. I have 2 chapters that are kind of silly. Well, they're all kind of interesting, but one of them's called When Things Go Wrong, Don't Go With Them, Naked at the Airport. And I was naked at the airport. And then the other chapter that's kind of funny is called The Bright Side of Poop on My Face. And that happened too. So, the book is full of, people say it made me cry, but it made me laugh a whole lot more. And, the thing that inspired me to write it is the fact that nobody is telling the truth about cancer. People tell you, oh, you might be sick and bald and tired. And I was all of those things. But then there's all of this crazy, all of these crazy experiences nobody shares. And I thought, well, someone's got to know. And then, or somebody's got to tell them. And then I think people would have a good laugh at my experience.
Interesting. So while you're writing this book and then you're coming out with it, what was the critical reception? Because I'm sure all the people you've coached over your years came out and one during the cancer, what you're going on, were super supportive. Then when the book came out, they all read it and they're like, "Oh my God, I didn't know the half of it, what you're going through," and it probably really touched people, as you said, with some laughter, some clarity, but also like some deep emotions and crying.
Yeah, so you're right. People are shocked by what I went through because I didn't, and I just said I'm fine the whole time. They saw smiling pictures of me. They had no idea what was really going on behind the scenes. But what's wonderful is this book has become the go-to handbook / manual for newly diagnosed patients. And so every single day I get letters that say, "Hey, my brother, my sister, my mom, my friend was diagnosed with some sort of cancer. Can you please get them your book right away? Can you sign it for them?" And that's a real privilege to be able to help people in this, new and scary space. I feel so grateful that my words are helping so much. And then, of course, my friends who aren't going through it that have read, they're reaching out saying, "Oh my God, I didn't know that happened. And I wish I would have known, I would have done something." And I said, "Well, I didn't." I told them, I'm glad you didn't know. I'm glad I pulled it off, because that's who I am. My job is to take care of other people. And I can also balance it out by saying everybody was so kind to me. I had so much generosity and thoughtfulness steered my way, especially by strangers. I traveled the country bald, no wig. And I also didn't wear pink ribbons or shirts that said breast cancer warrior. I just, was a regular old bald girl. And the amount of people who carried my bags or, just said, "I'm rooting for you." I was the poster child for cancer. And, people pick on Americans and say, "Oh, Americans are bad." No, Americans are good, solid people. And I don't care what they look like or where they came from. We are in a country full of very decent people. And I benefited from that.
I love that. So when you were traveling, did people come up to you randomly like, "Oh, I know your story," or was it something after the fact? Now that you travel, the book's out, it's a little bit more publicized. People speak to you.
Yeah, so along the way, I did have people say, "Hey, I know who you are and I'm rooting for you, blah, blah, blah." But just, I don't think when I walked into the Delta Sky Lounge in Detroit, people in there knew who I was. It's shocking to
Yeah.
a bald female. And here's the difference. So I have some of my Black girlfriends. They it's stylish and cool for them. Black girls have a heck of a lot of fun with their hair and with no hair. But when a white chick does it, people just think, "Oh, she's sick." And I was. So that made sense. So yeah, they treated me differently. And it was interesting because I normally, am a powerful, confident person. And to so have people treating me like I was weak, and even though I was weak and sick, it was a different, I don't know, it was a different experience.
And do you feel like that probably made you, and not that it sounds like at all whatsoever you've ever been like have an ego or anything, but seeing the generosity of random people or your friends coming out probably just kept you that much more humble and appreciative of what you have and having now that you're living your life and you feel healthy again, and we'll talk about where you're at right now, you
Yeah.
just appreciate everything more because you've been through an experience and you know what it means to just really appreciate the small things in life.
100%. Yeah, I was wildly appreciative and positive before and always had great perspective, but even more so now. And, it's interesting. Before my diagnosis, I had quite a few friends who were diagnosed that I would take to their appointments and I would shuttle their kids around and bring meals. And one of my girlfriends, she passed away from pancreatic cancer about a year and a half before I was diagnosed. And so I really carried her in my heart because that's a much meaner disease traditionally than breast cancer. But yeah, people came to help me and my family, and it was interesting. I've always been the helper, and the fact that someone had to show up to my house with a meal um, was difficult to swallow. But the reality was, I wasn't safe to drive my kids around. I wasn't in any position to go to the grocery store, shop, or cook. And people came out of the woodwork to pitch in. And then when I was at races, my athletes are the best. They showed up with snacks and drinks.
Mm.
It was raining. They came out with ponchos or blankets and umbrellas. And, I had people that called and said, I bet your stomach's pretty funny. Is there any special food you want me to bring you? And Campbell's soup. Yes, I need some of that. Right. One particular yogurt because my stomach was super weird. So, yeah, I mean, just the kindness was endless. And, I'm back to paying it forward. And that's my commitment, is to continue driving people to and from appointments and bringing meals and mowing a lawn or folding laundry. There's a lot of things we could do to help people in need. And it doesn't all require finances. Sometimes it's just showing up to help.
I agree. And I kind of have that too. Like when I tore my ACL in college, I had to get the surgery and I was basically stuck in my dorm room for 3 months. I couldn't move out of my bed type of thing besides go to physical therapy. And people would come on campus to drive me to physical therapy. People would bring me a dinner or lunch from the dining hall. People would just come sit on the floor and just hang out with me in my dorm room. And it just made me appreciate life so much more. And not that I ever, like you said, didn't, but I really like try to pay it forward now. So like whenever I'm at a restaurant, I always try to give like a 25% tip because you never know what that waitress is going from or waiter. Whenever I'm like Chipotle, I always try to pay for the person behind me. So like I just always try to do random acts of kindness just because I know it will make someone's day, and I hope that they will pass it on. Kind of like that one commercial that went out a couple of years ago. So I love that.
That's nice. I'm not surprised you do those things, Randy.
Yeah. So let me ask you, how are you feeling now? So now that the books come out, you feel like you're back to normal. Are you still dealing with any lingering effects, or do you feel like you're back to yourself?
Yeah, so I finished chemo in May of 2020, and it took a while. I had lost well, no, that's a lie. I lost 12 pounds and mostly muscle. I'm a lean person to begin with. I maybe were a size 3 upon diagnosis. So I had gone down to skin and bones. And so I've put on 7 pounds of muscle. I exercise regularly and vigorously, and I'm working really hard with strength training. I feel energetic. I feel happy. I'm almost there. There's a couple of things. Like I just told my husband recently, I said, I can open things again. My hands had become very weak from treatment. It's just a weird thing, but I had no grip strength. And now I can open a jar. And so that's something that's special.
Small wins.
Yeah, little wins go a long way. I'm still not back up to running half marathons yet. I will be. But yeah, I'm doing great and almost there. I have some soreness from surgery and radiation. Radiation, I didn't have burns. A lot of people get burns. I didn't. But what was left is I feel like I've been beaten in the rib cage with a bat. So it's been over a year since radiation finished and I still am sore. So, little things. And I have scars and unfortunately I'm going to have to carry this thing with me, but I'm looking forward to it being even further in the rearview mirror.
Awesome. And I love that. And like obviously the positivity, the smile you have when you talk about it. A lot of people I'm sure, especially when it's so new still, have a tough time talking about it. But I love the fact that you're so open about it because as you said, the book and helps enables others, which takes me to kind of my last questions as we round third base here is if someone were to get cancer today and say they haven't read your book, what do you want them to know about what they're about to go through and how they can overcome it?
So it's hard. It definitely is hard. Nobody gets out of cancer care easily. And even if you just have to have a minor surgery to remove it, surgery has its but the majority of cancers are curable. That's if you look on the statistics, it's fantastic what fundraising science and doctors have been able to figure out and implement as far as medical care. So have hope, number one. So the 4 things that kept me going were passion. You got to keep your passions. If you love animals and music, fine. You got to have access to those things. Even if you're in the hospital, watch funny animal videos on YouTube. You just got to keep your passion because that will lift you up. Perspective goes a long way. And then choose to be positive. You get absolutely 0 extra points for having pity parties. So if someone says something funny, allow yourself to laugh. You'll do lots of crying. I certainly did. But if you can choose happiness and choose light, that'll go a long way. And then last but not least, this is a thing I'm showing. If for the people listening audio, it's a sticker on the back of my phone. It says, I can do hard things. And when I was going into very scary experiences, and I'm a medical wimp, I found myself coaching myself up internally. I wasn't saying it out loud, but I kept saying, you can do hard things, you can do hard things. And I would remind myself of the things I've done in the past. You used to be a competitive kickboxer. You've raised great children. You built a great business. Those things are hard. So you can do hard things. So when I went into something that terrified me, which I had to do all the time, I just kept that mantra going. So, and that's what, when people order my book on fitzness.com, I sign all those books, and then everybody gets a sticker that says, I can do hard things. And hopefully they put it on their phone or on the back of their computer or somewhere where they see it all the time as a reminder. Because you can do hard things. And we all have those moments in life where, it gets rough, and we have to make decisions. And I made good decisions. I hope you do too.
I love that. And honestly, my other question was going to be for people who don't have cancer, but they're overcoming challenges in their life, what would it be? And you answered that with two answers in one. So I will talk about what my takeaways are. Is what you just said is we're all going to overcome hard things, but if you believe you can overcome them, whatever it is, you will do it. When you let the self-doubt, when you let the creep in, that's when you're going to maybe go into something not prepared as you should or with the right mindset, and it's going to start to take you over. And slowly but slowly you'll eat away, and then you're not going to have the mental fortitude to overcome it, whatever that is. And obviously Fitz talked about, like, her whole life she's worked with athletes and how they have the right mindset to be able to prepare themselves and overcome adversity and get to the next level. It's almost serendipity that she dealt with something and she could use that same mindset that she's learned and practiced her whole life from her own career, and just helping people use that in her cancer treatment and now be successful and be a shining light for other people who are going through hard things. So I think this has been an amazing half hour of us speaking. And you literally are a leap of fate. I wish I had something to provide you to rep it, but you are the leap of fate message I'm trying to portray to other people.
Wow, thank you. I'm very fortunate to be on the other side of cancer care, and if this becomes another tool in my bag of tricks to help people live better and longer, then so be it. And I hope everyone out there takes their health seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Never know when illness or injury is going to strike. Prepare your body to do battle today. Start watching what you eat, exercise often, get the sleep, build up a strong, resilient body. Because if you get hit by a bus or you get diagnosed with an illness, you will rebound, recover, rehabilitate far quicker if you are strong and fit going into it. And then as far as, medical practice goes, is schedule those annual exams and squeeze your stuff. It's your hands, it's your stuff. Put your hands in your shirt, put your hands in your pants, cop a feel, and if you find something weird, report it to your doctors immediately.
I agree. And especially for my audience, we're probably more millennials, 30, 40-year-olds. As we get older, we're not that teenager anymore. We have to take care of our bodies. I've definitely in the pandemic learned, do I want to go out to 4 a.m. or do I want to sleep? Do I need to go ahead and have a bunch of alcohol? No, I feel so healthy because I've cleaned up my life through the pandemic. And I don't need that, have those vices to have fun. I can just have fun and be healthy at the same time.
That's a good lesson learned.
It's a great lesson learned. If we can find you, obviously, if you guys are listening on any streaming site in the YouTube, all her links are in the bio, so please go click them. But how can we find you, Fitz?
Yeah, so fitzness.com is my home base. That's FITZ.com. That's where I prefer people get their autographed books with sticker gift. And there's all sorts of recipes and workout videos and free help on getting fit at fitzness.com. Also, you can find me at Fitzness on social media, on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And don't just follow and reach out and say hi, because I love connecting with new people.
Awesome. And that's how we got connected, was I posted about people coming on my podcast and she reached out to me. So we made it happen. So I appreciate that. If you do want to reach out to me, this is the Leap of Fate. You can find us at Leap of Fate Pod on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. go ahead and hit me up on Clubhouse at Leap of Faith. Let's have some active conversations there. Please do like, subscribe if you like this content, want to know. Please hit the notification on YouTube so you guys get notified when all these videos come out. I have workout videos, fitness videos, obviously interviews, so everything like that. Fitz, thank you so much for coming on today. We're going to go ahead and do our sign off. So can you repeat after me, please?
I can.
Stay healthy.
Stay healthy.
Stay wealthy.
Stay wealthy.
And have a good week, fans.
And have a good week, fans.
Deuces. Bye, everybody.